And for many of us, it's a bit of an outlier. It's a sort of an unknown entity because just as its name suggests, it lies really far from the city, and that's what outer ring roads are supposed to be. And and the outer ring roads, in fact, have a way of becoming part of our lives. That's what happened to the earlier outer ring road, which is now this very congested Jawaharlal Nehru road. It was once outer ring road, but now it's inner ring road. So we can foresee a time when even this ORR, as of now, you can see vast swaths of land not populated. You have, habitations, from one place to another, one town to another. Maybe like 30 years down the line or 40 years down the line, it might become another congested road, necessitating the development of another outer ring road. So when you are trying to make sense of ORR and its place in the ecosystem, I would like to go straight to the man, who knows the lie of the land. He is a man on the field. He knows everything about land. So over to Jerry Kingsley, who is head research at JLL India. So why ORR? So this, in fact, in this question and in the topic that we have, Chennai's next expansion, why ORR will define it, that presupposes the idea that there have been expansions earlier. Obviously, there were expansions. I would like to know the previous expansion. Where do you think it happened? And could you also tell us in what way this expansion is going to be different from the previous one in Chennai?
Sure. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you, Prince. And it's a great forum with very distinguished panelists along with me. So to your question, why ORR and how the city has grown before, right, historically, we'll hear different views. We've seen the city grow through, perpendicular roads, right? When we talk about growth, everyone kind of relates to Tidal Park 1990, which was like the end of the city.
Yeah.
Now that's the beginning of the IT corridor, right? We saw the 25-kilometer stretch. Now that's extended all the way to another, 20 kilometers at least. Right? So we've seen those, perpendicular roads. However, what we are seeing now, as far as outer ring road is concerned, this is going to be the first major ring road. Right? You mentioned about inner ring road. Then we had the Chennai bypass road, but that was more for logistics.
Okay.
But this corridor, outer ring road, is we would say the first, ring development, right, which kind of connects multiple highways. It's touching different zones. If you look at it, starting from Vandalore, right, a hub for IT, about 10 kilometers from the airport, close to good social infrastructure, right. Pundamalli, right, it touches the Chennai-Bangalore highway, which is a good manufacturing hub.
Yeah.
Then you've got the green zones, right, around Red Hills, and then it goes to Minjur, which is logistics, right? So it kind of touches different zones, which is why this corridor is going to be very different compared to, many other corridors. And just like to close with one or two examples. If we kind of compare Beijing, Beijing has 5 different rings.
Okay.
Similar to what we are having here, much bigger
so
scale.
outer ring road, then outer ring road. That's how it goes, right?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes. It's a,
And even what is now inner ring road used to be outer ring road.
Correct.
Talk about
Correct. Right. So we're going to see this ring of development, which is going to be the start. Got some stats on how land prices have increased in these corridors, which we'll speak later. So this is a good model development, like how Beijing has, developed. And then we'll also speak about maybe the Hyderabad ring road later. Right?
Okay,
So those are my opening comments.
Oh, great. Would you advise, Shafiq to sell us villa in Poise Garden and invest in ORR? Does it have that much potential?
Definitely, the way city is growing outside, we are seeing good appreciation. In fact, we were doing some research.
Okay.
If we can take Radial Road as an example, if I can ask a question, what was the land price in Radial Road, which is a 200 feet road in 2005? Prince, would you guess? I'll make it easy. It was about 10-15 lakhs per acre.
Wow.
And now we are talking about 50-55 crores per acre, which is about close to 700% increase.
My God,
right?
if I bought there, I wouldn't be working. I'd be landlord.
Yeah, so definitely a good recommendation, to invest in
Shall we go
emerging
ahead?
areas.
Or maybe our property plus editor who lives in Shanti Colony can do that. Can sell it. Great. It's amazing. So now, if you just take a place, water, people have always gravitated towards places that had good water supply. And so water is something you can't ignore. And sometimes it is our friend, sometimes it's our foe, depending on how we deal with it. So ultimately we are to blame. And if you take ORR, sir, the structure is such that it blocks the flow of water, the way ORR is constructed. And so you need to be very careful about ensuring water flow mechanisms at regular places. And how do we know that we are getting it right? Because generally what happens is we are invariably wise after the event. We see flooding and all that, and then we just go and do all those engineering, water engineering and all that. Now ORR, if you just look at certain places, like you take your Vararajapuram, it's inhabited, like in Nasratpet and all that. But then between those areas, those towns and all that, you don't find much habitation. So it's not really tested in terms of its resilience, kind of against flooding and all that. I think much of ORR has not been tested yet. How do we really know where we should have all those, conduits for water to flow from one side to another?
Okay.
And before that, let me introduce Professor Janagarajan. Janagarajan is actually former MITS director, and there's one topic that's very close to his heart is water management. So, hence the question.
No, thank you for this opportunity. Let me first of all congratulate the organizers to discuss about the ORR. This is the first time I ever come across an agency talking about would like to engage in a discussion on the ORR. Because ORR is taken for granted. IRR was taken for granted. Inner Ring Road, as we said before, was ORR. Now it's called Inner Ring Road because ORR has come. So it was taken for granted. Nobody never bothered about what is going to be. Vararajapuram that you said, it's a disaster. In fact, I am part of the flood mitigation committee of Government of Tamil Nadu, where we were exclusively people wanted us to visit that area. It was a disaster. It was a huge disaster because of obstruction.
2015, there was 13 feet of water.
13 feet of water. It was a big disaster. Anyway, that was an experience. But the issue is whether we have learned any lesson from that IRR experience. That is something. So the basic issue is, before a development of any kind of urban infrastructure, because you are all builders and engaged in urban development and so on, it is extremely important for us to understand what is the location advantage or disadvantage of this city. Our city, Chennai city, several thousand years ago was once a wetland. Entire area was a wetland. Meaning it was there was no area where you can really do any kind of a developmental activity because there is no upland, no elevated land. It was all just applied on the shore. Slowly, because of some developmental activity, people started elevating, and now city is now has got this kind of developmental activity. But still, until 1974, 30% of the area was basically wetland. 30% of the area, which means it's at a zero MSL. The rest of the area was also classified as the low elevation coastal zone, meaning it was 10 meters and below. So all that I'm trying to say is that please understand the locational advantage or disadvantage of the Chennai city. That is one. And secondly, Chennai, in my view, is the most blessed city in the entire South Asia, because I am also working for Sakya Water, South Asia level organization. We work on water resources. Chennai city, there is no other city in South Asia which is as blessed as Chennai, because we are having 3 rivers flowing from west to east, which all the 3 rivers used to be once fine rivers flowing with the good water. Today it is not, you all know.
Talking about ORR, actually, you have Adayar. And I think, there are some streams also. I think you
There are
touched
many
upon
streams,
there.
there are hundreds of small
ORR
streams.
has got small
Yeah,
streams.
many streams, micro
Could you
streams.
talk about that?
Yeah.
How to map?
No, the issue that I would like to emphasize here is the water that flows into Bay of Bengal comes from as far as 350 kilometers away. Don't think that water comes only from 70, 80 kilometers in Adayar Kum. No. Water flows from west to east, meaning water has to drain into the Bay of Bengal through by passing the Chennai city. So that is something which we need to understand and appreciate. Keep that in mind before developing any kind of urban infrastructure. Now let's come to ORR.
ORR, yeah.
Okay. No.
For want of time, actually, it's very fascinating.
Yeah.
But actually, we have very limited time.
So what is ORR?
Yeah.
ORR nothing but an elevated construction of a 3 to 5 meters elevated road, meaning you are going to have some kind of damming of the water flow. You are going to dam it. Okay, there are hundreds of micro streams flowing from west to east. All of them will be joining either the tanks below or some tributaries or rivers. Yeah. Now, all three are going to block. You may say that, of course, we're going to have a lot of culverts. Culverts are jokes. That's what we learned. There are so many culverts we constructed. I mean, they're hopeless. But when you construct a culvert, all that you need to do is to do the estimate of what is the kind of a flow that you're going to experience in the worst rainfall year, like 2015. Unless you have that kind of an estimate, how can you construct a culvert? These estimates are never made. You never know what are the streams, where they are coming from, what is the kind of inflow, outflow. Without knowing any of these details, you simply go and do a engineering design, and that is where there is no connect between hydrology and engineering. Yeah. It has to be connected. You have to really understand. So unless you do that, your ORR will not be very helpful because it's going to be flooded, as you said.
How do we identify the streams, sir?
Well, the 1971 topo sheet is the best. 1971 topo sheet gives you all the micro streams, very beautifully mapped. That you should do. And secondly, what you can do is there are a large number of satellite imageries now. All that is available, you can use that also. Please map before the ORR. Please map the hydrology micro streams and measure what is the kind of a flow of water in a worst rainfall and a heavy rainfall year. When I say worst, it's a heavy rainfall year. Take that measurement and accordingly you make an estimate about how to really pass that water through. In my view, you should have a series of bridges, not the culverts. Okay. You should have a series of bridges. Long bridges, not culverts. Culverts will never help.
That's great. We'll come back to you, sir. It's really interesting, the hydrology of ORR. And we'll come back to this question again. And now I would like to go to Deepto. Deepto is Chief Marketing Officer of Casagrand. I mean, it's you got a baby growing there on ORR. So you were really invested in ORR. And tell us why ORR would work for anyone. Like, for instance, if you really look at an ideal model, you should be able to walk to work. But then, I mean, it's also possible, but that's not practically possible all the time. Maybe in a place like OMR, it's possible because you do have everything in one place. You have houses, as in residential development, and largely fueled by the IT industry and all that. You can't expect the same thing elsewhere. But still, by virtue of, quicker transport and, I mean, climate for transport, quicker transport, it's possible for you to, travel long and be on time for work elsewhere. Could you just tell us about the topography of ORR, which would lend itself to this kind of living, where, you take ORR you see ORR as a sleeper town, and, you live there, but you can quickly get to your workplace, even if it is really far away. What makes it possible?
Sure. Thank you for having me on this panel with such experts of this topic. See, obviously, we are invested in this area because we see that this is an early development of many of the living-related issues that we have faced in the past, right? And we also see that any modern city the concept of one CBD is no longer valid. So even if you take a city like Chennai, there are multiple hubs. So there is a manufacturing hub, there are multiple IT hubs, there is still a central business district in the center of town. And similarly, there are many residential, social, cultural points that are there. So therefore, every time you have to go through the city, for obvious reasons of population and congestion and all of that, it becomes more and more difficult for people to get to point A to point B. So therefore, when we see an emerging connector, connecting road, we obviously felt that it is an extremely important place that would develop very fast, right, for the reasons that Jerry pointed out. We also realize that increasingly, as people will want a certain kind of living which is more spacious or close to nature, or which gives ample opportunity for children to grow away from pollution and congestion and all of that, we have to adopt something like the Western model of living, which is that you live in the suburbs and you work wherever you have to. I mean, we all wish that we could walk or have a short drive.
Even I don't live that way. I live on OMR and I work in Mount Road, 26 kilometers away.
So therefore, if that is not possible, what is the next best opportunity? And the next best opportunity is that we create a sort of what we believe would be a mini township, which would connect pretty much everything across. So something as diverse as Adyar on one side or T Nagar on the other side. I mean, where we are located, I mean, everything is a 40-45 minute kind of location away. And that makes it in a very unique position. So if you see the what ORR connects, I mean, there is the Ambattur industrial estate on the extreme north side. And then there is the south, on the south side, there is the IT belt. That whole thing is connected in a...
Or it feeds into your Vandalur Kelambakam Road.
Yes.
And via Vandalur Kelambakam Road, you can go to...
everything. So correct. So therefore, we are actually looking at a model where the extreme north and the extreme south of Chennai and two very busy business districts for different reasons. One is IT, other is manufacturing, but they are connected, I mean, potentially less than an hour away. I mean, nobody ever thinks that distance is possible to be covered in less than an hour. And we are trying to be somewhere in between. So to offer everybody a choice that wherever you work, it would be reasonably simple. Even if the distance is of a certain type, the drive, thanks to the spread, the quality of the road and everything, the drive will be will be easier, much easier and better and all of that. So therefore, we feel that this whole thing, and of course, see, what we see is that ORR is like a connector of corridors. So you can keep going in and out and get to anywhere reasonably fast. I mean, and as we go along, maybe like Jerry said, we should talk about the Bangalore.
Jerry, in fact, actually, like, hit
Hyderabad example.
Hit the nail on its head, when he said it's radial. Radial, actually, you just see as in like sun radiating rays. I think development can just flow, kind of to where that's what it practice. We'll just come to this. This is interesting. Before that, I would like to just go to Karthik Bhatt. Karthik Bhatt is a chartered accountant by profession, but a historian by passion. So he writes for Madras Musings, and he's with the great historian of Chennai, Madras, B. Sriram. And so I got this question, maybe like man can't live by roads alone, good roads alone. We need them. But then we also need something else. We need something for the soul, right? And that comes through stories, spirituality, maybe nature and stuff like that. So I want you to just tell us about things, maybe temples or kind of anything that's ancient there on ORR.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on this panel this evening. Firstly, as you say, I mean, I can't agree with you more when you said it's an outlier because it is so out. So, right. So it's an outlier for me as well, except for the fact that, been to some of the places, if not exactly on ORR, but on its fringes, like all these places like Punamalli, and, you pass through these places, Tirumalisai, and, places like that. The first thing that all of us must remember is that the city as we know it today, the city or the most of the city that we know it today falls or fell under what was called the Puliyur Kotam, right,
Yeah,
of the Tondai Mandalam thing. So basically, the Puliyur and Pural Kotam. So parts of the city fell under that, and parts of the city fell under this. So this is basically, from the ancient times, right? So, and then what we've seen here is that most of the development in the city within the city that we've seen is been kind of a need-based approach, right? So, right, I mean, if you take from the time of the East India Company, localities that have developed, for instance, you have the, Chintadripetai and then, Colletpet, which were all for a particular need, a particular purpose, so which is basically for the weaving community, because the East India Company was dealing with cloth, right? So, and then all the 20th century developments, if you look at, T Nagar and Gopalapuram and, places like that, all of them have been to address, the housing needs, the growing housing needs of various classes, of various categories of people, right? So, first the outer ring road, if you look at it, kind of falls somewhere in that, that the need-based approach, because the city's congestion has, gone up, and, by the time when it was 2010, when it was, actually, envisaged, 2009, 2010 also it was envisaged, I think the congestion had gone up, and there was a need for, all your big traffic, the heavy traffic to, kind of flow without getting into the city. So, which is one of the reasons for it. Having said that, very interesting that, many historical spots you can find on the fringes, if not on the ORR, per se. So you look at,
Can you name the
places
oldest?
like,
Oldest?
I mean, see, and dating anything with certainty is always is an iffy exercise. But then you have localities like, you take Kundratur, which is very close to Tirumudivakam, which is, I think, where one of Casagrand's projects is, right? So Kundratur, you've got, which is supposed to be the birthplace of Sekirar, the man who wrote the Periya Puranam. So Kundratur is and so you've got a very famous Murugan temple there, on the hill temple there. And then you've got Tirunirmalai, which is again not a very not very far off from the OR area, Pallavaram, of course. So Tirunirmalai, where a lot of filmy marriages took place in the 70s, and if you watched a movie there, if someone ran away from home, they would probably get married in Tirunirmalai. So so you've got Tirunirmalai not very far from there.
Yeah.
So very so
That's a good
what
idea,
I'm
I think
sorry.
you need to broadcast it. People can, they want to open marriage. Okay,
I mean, don't quote me on that, but a lot of movies have been shot there, as all of you would have seen.
Yeah.
So, anyway, but so if you look at this ORR thing, so on the fringes are a lot of these important, and Tirunimakam itself per se, Turumudi Pakam or something is what it was known as. Turumudi, Shiva's copious locks. So that's
Tipto will be interested in it. I think it's going to get into his
so
brochure, I'm sure.
there's an ancient Shiva temple there with, I think an inscription there goes back to 1130s, 1140. So from the time of Rajaraja II. So quite interesting that it's got a hotbed of culture and thing around that.
Okay. Oh, great. Very nice. Actually, it's interesting. So you have another layer to ORR, and another case for selling your villa in Chennai and
clearly the newest
and moving
kid
to
on the
ORR.
block, considering
Yeah.
what Karthik just
Great. Now I'll like to go back to Jerry. So I would want you to talk about ORR's cousins elsewhere. Maybe I think you briefly touched upon it, and I want you to elaborate on it and say that other lessons from other cities. ORR, if you take Hyderabad, it's like huge, much bigger than this ORR. This one is 62 kilometers, and that one is, I think, much longer.
Yeah,
I
it's
guess.
about 160 kilometers.
160, yeah, that's huge. Huh?
It's about 60 kilometers.
Yeah, because ours is like, I think you have the sea and all that, so naturally, but 62. Ours is 62. This ORR is 62. But if you're going to add this thing, Bandarur Kelambakam, it might be another 20 or 82. I think if you're, I'm just talking about the radial structure. So could you talk about, ORR's cousins elsewhere, and, kind of what are the lessons that we have from them when it comes to developing ORR further?
Yes, Prince. So, when we're looking at this outer ring road, we were also just doing a little bit of research on how we can compare. Couple of interesting, scenarios or examples. What we have in South itself is the Hyderabad outer ring road. As you said, that is about 158 kilometers by Hyderabad Metropolitan Development Authority. And if you look at the advantages of the Hyderabad ORR, it is a 8-lane highway, right? And it provides rapid and seamless connectivity, right, to the other business districts, especially the high-tech city and financial district. We heard about how this outer ring road can connect the other IT hubs. We should look at the overall multimodal transportation with the outer ring road, and then look at the metro, which will come till Kilambakam, right, which will further connect, which will be like a node which will connect, the other zones in the city, right? So, although the distance-wise it could be higher for somebody working in the IT corridor, transportation and transit time-wise, it's much closer. In fact, I was on the outer ring road day before, right?
Okay.
I was going to Tiruvallur, and what typically takes about 1.5 hours, we were able to, bypass the Tiruvallur town and go to the location, near Pundi in about 45 minutes, right? So that's the advantage, which we have. But now going back again to the comparison, rapid and seamless connectivity is one. The infrastructure which the Hyderabad ORR provides, right? So that has been one key factor, and it has been an infrastructure for future growth. We heard from the historian on how the city was, maybe decades back, and looking forward where the city will grow, right? So that's where we want to be. And if you kind of look at the overall development, once the outer ring road in Hyderabad had come, there has been a spurt in real estate activity, right? There has been a real estate boom there. We saw escalation in land price of about 10-15%, right, annually, compounded annual growth, right, in these areas. And with the outer ring road, that gave further connectivity to the commercial hubs, right? So we see a lot of IT park developments coming up in Vandalur, coming up, towards the north, where Tidal is also being promoted in, Pattabiram, right? So all these are
Through Mudivakam, you have your
Sitco, which is a MSME manufacturing,
Correct.
hub, right? So it's a good mix of different type of developments, industrial growth, high return on investment for investors. So we've seen that happen in Hyderabad ORR, and decentralization of growth, right? So currently, if you look at it, over 60% of IT stock is all concentrated on OMR, right?
Okay.
And now the way companies, global capability centers look at their operation, right? So they are looking at disaster recovery units or, business continuity planning, where they have to be operating in a decentralized manner, right? So even if you look at Casagrand, I was asking how many offices they have, they've got so many offices, right? So to ensure that employees from different locations can work in different areas, right? So these are some of the high-level comparisons when we look at Chennai Outer Ring Road with Hyderabad Outer Ring Road, and what are the parameters, which this zone saw. And the other example would be Bangalore Outer Ring Road, right? So that will also be another example. Hyderabad, we would say, is more a proactive kind of a development, where the infrastructure, as Sir said, the civic infrastructure and the other infrastructure came, and then the road was, proposed. Bangalore Outer Ring Road was more reactive, right?
Like our OMR.
OMR
is worse than
I
reactive.
wouldn't comment. OMR is the crown jewel for us, and a lot of
Okay.
IT companies are operating there. But even with that, the IT stock in just Outer Ring Road
Okay.
would be higher than many cities, right? It's over 100 million square feet. Global capability centers continue to, grow there. So we have Hyderabad Outer Ring Road, which was more proactive, and the Bangalore Outer Ring Road, which would say that it kind of evolved with the growth of the city. I want to be very cautious when I say
Just,
that.
listening to this, there's one thought that's occurring to me. Is there a case for, companies, maybe IT companies, to have their GCCs, maybe somewhere here? Because in 2015, we realized, because of the flooding, a lot of work was, kind of transferred to Bangalore. People were working from Bangalore and doing it. To avoid that, actually, if you have something closer home, would that be a good idea?
GCCs definitely, they would probably grow along the existing hubs. It would take a little longer, I would say. But as we heard, it is not about GCCs being there. How quickly you can go to an IT hub, right? That is more important, right? And secondly, these zones, we are also seeing data centers coming up, right? So earlier data centers were only in Ambattur. Now, we've seen requirements from data centers to move in the peripheral areas, right? So that could be one hub of growth. Heavy demand from logistics and industrial INL, as we call it, industrial and logistics. That's another segment. GCCs, obviously, if you look at the catchment of Chennai, good amount of residential catchment is around the GST road, right? Which is Pallavaram, Krompet, Tambaram, and things like that. And that kind of feeds into the GCC infrastructure.
I said that actually having Chennai's water sensitivity in mind. If you take your coastal areas and all that, there's always a threat. Kind of, it's like a Damocles sword, it's hanging over you. I'm saying maybe a place like ORR, would it be better in terms of I think slightly more insulated against flooding? No, certainly not Vararajapuram. That anyway, a professor also mentioned that it's a disaster.
I think Vandalur is still a established
safe
area.
Haven, is it?
GCCs have still not ventured out, right? So because we've got good micro market social infrastructure already in OMR, Radial Road, Mount Punamali Road, which will continue to be there as top tier locations, right? And future locations will take time, but more than GCC is just the connectivity on how you can quickly get to the places where you work, right? Which is a advantage. So to summarize, Hyderabad ORR, Bangalore ORR are the two key examples, right, which we want to speak.
Actually, if I may just add on to what Jerry said, I mean, it's a very nice sort of a broad view. What I realize is that because Hyderabad is a very planned development, proactive development, like he said, so Hyderabad has pretty much embraced ORR like that. So when we talk about home buyers or potential home buyers in Hyderabad, the currency there is an ORR exit. Like, where is this particular location, new project, where do you live? We live in ORR near ORR exit 5, ORR exit 6. Like, in an other extreme example, so if you say, like when you're in London, people say which nearest tube station they live, because everything is connected by the London tube, right? So in Hyderabad, people are okay to live a little distance-wise away, because they know if they are near an ORR exit, they can get to the, like he said, they can get to the hubs very easily. So to that extent, Hyderabad has pretty much embraced that ORR like no other city.
Actually, I want to keep this question for the last, rather save the best for last kind of a thing. But then I'm forced to kind of ask Dipto this question, because if you I know that you have a baby there in Thirumandivakam, and how big is the baby? What is the stage of the project?
We are in the process of launching it.
And people have started booking and all. Is there a small community already?
No. The community has not formed. We would be starting construction very soon. So we are in the process of launching. So the pre-bookings and the bookings will go on. So it's a very large project. It's like a 41-acre project. And we are trying to create a very large infrastructure, which is not only residential. I mean, that's obvious that there would be like a few thousand residential units there. But along with it, what we are realizing is that because of the social, the cultural, all of that, and all that is required for a full living. So there is also, we are trying to put a school there, like within the development. We are also trying to create a very large sports clubhouse, which would have some 15-20 sports and some 35-40 courts, so that, given that largeness of the city, we believe that
these things that if the children's education is kind of taken care of within walking distance,
walking,
like you
yeah,
said,
yeah, sure.
then that's a big.
And people who are working in Sitco probably right now, there are so many people who are traveling from Chromepet and all that to work in Sitco that I'm talking about Tiruvudimbakkam.
Right.
They probably might warm up to the idea of buying in your
Of
project
course.
and staying,
See,
and so it will be that.
what we are saying is that it is not linked to any. I mean, if you are, whether you are looking for something in Pallavaram, Tiruvurivakkam, or even if you are looking something in north of Chennai, because even Annanagar comes at a striking distance when you are on the
Yeah, ORR is just a breeze, right? Like you can
Correct.
just, that's a.
So if you are, like, let's say if you have to go to Annanagar from the point where we are located, which is near Tiruvurivakkam, I mean, it is not a bad drive. It's like a 40-minute drive, of which 30 minutes is an absolute breeze, meaning it will be on the highway, and the last 10 minutes.
And drive can be therapy sometimes to a lot of people.
Yeah, so if you are a biker and all of that, then that road is made for you, right?
Yeah.
It is a small road, isn't it?
No, it's
leads
fine.
to Tiruvurivakkam. That road
No, we are on the
can-
ORR. I mean, Tirugurivakkam I just mentioned as a location marker, but we are on the main ORR. We are not inside.
Yeah, actually, the thing is, I was interested in this word community. In fact, that's the reason I jumped the gun and asked you that question. Because actually, if you really look at ORR and all that, normally, generally, you take any place, if a group of people, kind of take ownership of that area is bound to develop. And the classic example is Varadarajapuram. Varadarajapuram, people started settling there in 2005 and all that. Earlier, they had a narrow bridge. And because of that, there was flooding of that area. And in 2012, I think, when they were, I think the second phase started, I think 11, 12 and all that. And because of a lot of petitions from them, and the Adyar River has been widened. And in fact, finally now, I think they've also raised walls. 2015 was a disaster. Again, 13 feet of water. And then again, more petitions followed and all that. And then finally now they've raised walls at vulnerable points. So this is the power of community. And another interesting thing about this particular community in Varadarajapuram, a lot of people, kind of from the government service and all that who just bought earlier, and then they've settled down there. Varadarajapuram and Rayapanagar. And in fact, in 2000, I think it was 2005-06, when they saw the plan, they're so proactive. They saw the plan and all that. They realized there is no PUP, pedestrian underpass. Pedestrian underpass is, it might suggest that it's only for pedestrians, but it's also for two-wheelers and four-wheelers. And they went to TNRDC and told them, and we need it, and they got it done. So the point is, that's why I said maybe like, if maybe a Casagrand can probably create communities and all that, and connect with, other communities as well, like Nazareth Pet, and I mean, that's near where you have your project.
Sure. We are among the first large developers to put up a pretty significant property project in that outer ring road area. And I'm sure there would be other, urbanization would follow.
Yeah.
And when you have a larger group, like Sir said, that many future developments, future precautions you can get aware of, you can prepare against it. And be ready for it. Community, I mean, it is both to build that positive fellow feeling, that's the obvious thing. But at the same time, it also becomes a support group. It also becomes a body to engage with the government. And I mean, so that's what, I mean, that's a good byproduct of what we do. That when we get a lot of homeowners in a place, they build their own life there. And we are hoping that Outer Ring Road will be one such place.
Okay. And talking about water, actually, you can't, ignore trees. So, what do you think, kind of, do you envisage grand, green belt plan for ORR?
Before going to the green corridor, I want to really make one very important point on the water issue only. For all big builders like JLL and so on, 100 millimeters, and it is not spread over year. And it is going to occur on a few days or a few weeks. So meaning you are going to get a heavy downpour in a short duration of time. You should be prepared for it. So you will develop all kinds of urban infrastructure and develop a lot of housing, industries and all that. But then eventually the kind of a damage that is going to cause to you because of this kind of a huge flooding it will be unpredictable, unprecedented. In 2015, as per the data provided by ASSOCHAM, loss was 25,000 crores in just one day. So you develop everything, but then you lose in no time. So that's why I'm saying you should be really be prepared when you develop both urban infrastructure as well as housing and industries, everything. Therefore, what you have to really keep in mind is these basics. The basics of hydrology, basics of rainfall, meteorological conditions, and climate change conditions. Keep this in mind, build accordingly, so that you survive. So people in the recent times talking about sustainable development. What is sustainable? What you really construct should be there for forever or for a longer duration. If you can't hold it, what's the big deal in construction? So ORR falls there.
Okay.
You keep in mind that you construct the ORR in order to really develop the city and develop your industrial base and housing and all that. But then you have to really make sure that you have to do all this. What are the things? You have to do a LiDAR survey. You have to do a LiDAR survey, and not only to measure the land use and the elevation level, and also the stream flows.
Okay.
So that you really develop it accordingly. This is a basic, very important thing. In fact, all big builders should do this. Casagrand should do this. JLL should do this. Everybody should do this, because this is something which is the basic and most fundamental. For instance, Beijing, they do this. Unless they do this important, eco assessment, they won't do the big construction. That is something we have to do. Then coming to the corridor, when you build this kind of a ORR, I think you should really allot some space on both sides to really build the green corridors.
Okay.
It's extremely important.
Yeah.
You can't build a ORR like running a road in a desert.
We're running out of time, so if you can just cut to the chase.
All that I'm trying to say is that you don't run a road like a desert. You should really have a sufficient space for developing a green corridor, and that green corridor should be maintained. No point in leaving the space and having some plantation done, but then no maintenance. Okay. You really have to also have the kind of an institutional base for planting as well as maintenance.
Yes. So, okay.
Prince, one quick point, just to summarize. So the way the real estate market is growing institutionally, with more investments coming in from global investors. Okay. For instance, JLL does not build, but we advise companies, right? If I'm advising a global capability center, we tell the companies to do a hydrology survey to look at what are the areas of risk and then take decisions, right? So companies do that. And even for builders like Casagrand, what happens is there are a lot of financial institutions who provide them capital. Okay. And before they write the first check, some of the basic criteria is they would ask, has this assessment flood mitigation been done, right? In case of this flooding, what are the safeguards which we are doing, right? Okay. So the market is kind of matured in such a way that financial institution insist on these type of checks to be done, right, before project takes on. Project commences.
So where does ORR stand? Have you done any study about it for any companies that have approached you asking you to suss out ORR for you?
As far as ORR is concerned, as Doctor mentioned, it is one of those emerging corridors. We need to look at the construction and the approach in a holistic manner, right? So look at whenever a residential project comes in terms of valuation and other aspects, we look at the next 40 years, right? How do we kind of envisage this location? What are the pros? What are the cons? What are the risks? And then, build accordingly, right? Okay. So that holistic approach has to be done at a project level, which is what I think, every builder will be doing.
Great. Actually, I just want you to play profit now. I mean, a bit of a prediction. I'm expecting a bit of a prediction from you. So how much can someone expect if they were to invest? In fact, you got us drooling, with the figures you gave for this radial road. I mean, in 2005, it was 10 or 15 lakh and all that 1 acre, and now it is something like 75 crore or something like that, right? 50 crore or something like that. So I just want you to just give a prediction so that we can make up our minds about whether to stay on in Chennai or just sell our properties and move to ORR.
I think it's very difficult because, forecasting future
Roughly a
prices,
ballpark.
right, is like, it's going to be a very difficult task. But just looking at data, if you look at Mount Punamali Road, 15 years has given a 200% return,
Okay.
right, in terms of land price appreciation. Radial Road, we mentioned 200 feet road, which is given
And even
close
Radial
to,
Road is not too far from,
correct,
a road,
yes.
not too far.
OMR Zone 1 has given about 170%.
Okay.
Zone 2 is about 260%. So all these are established corridors. What
Okay.
we've seen is the more you go outside, the increase becomes higher over a
But one thing, one
longer
correction actually,
period.
but I think you're comparing the prices before the boom. Is it like pre-2005? 2005 is when the boom happened, right?
Correct, yeah.
The
Correct.
the leap. So are you just looking at figures before 2005 and
We've
now?
taken a 15-year average.
15
so
year
in
meaning,
case
okay.
we go 20 years, then the increase would be much higher.
Oh, okay.
Because the
So in the
prices
15
would-
years, last 15 years you're talking about.
from 2005 to 2025, 2026, right? So
Okay.
definitely, it's...
But will we have a boom like the 2005 boom kind of a
See,
thing?
I mean, instead of looking at numbers, we should look at where you're investing, what is the overall, development, right? So if you look
Okay.
at some of the factors, just to close why Outer Ring Road is good, it kind of caters to different segments. As we said, IT, it caters to manufacturing, logistics. It is going to give us steady, returns, safe return. It covers different corridors. Future metro, phase 2 metro, the proposed metro is something which we will have to look at. Good opportunity for integrated township development, right?
Okay, okay.
You don't get that in the city anymore, right? A good,
Okay.
Yes, the future infrastructure which will be there. So all these are factors, which you kind of take in mind. And most importantly, when you invest, where are you? Who are you giving your money to? Right? Who's the partner? Right?
Okay.
Which plays a very, very important role.
Okay.
Right? When you're looking at your hard-earned investments.
Okay.
If I can just add one last thing on
But
this
keep it
thing.
brief. Huh? I think we're already running out of time.
Yes. So it's good to be very optimistic and very gung-ho about all the development that's going to happen with ORR and all that. But I think the need to balance, because we've always seen that the first casualty in any development is heritage, be it man-made or be it natural. So I guess there is a need for urban planners, for builders, for everyone to keep in mind that we've never won a battle against nature, as it's time and again showed us who the boss is. So I think it's very, very important that any development keeps in mind, as sir was pointing out, the word sustainable development needs to be there. Right? So I think that's about mine.
I don't have to say anything actually. It was there for all of you to see. It was, we had subject matter experts in various areas discussing a very interesting topic, ORR. Because I think, all this great, if we notice all the roads come, there's 3 letters and all that. It was ECR, that was the bus, and then OMR. Now it is ORR. So we're all looking forward to it and all that. And a lot of us are even just hoping to relocate. I'm just kidding. Anyway, and this place with a lot of promise, and then Casagrand is there and all that, and that's another project to look out for. And anyway, so thank you so much for being with us.
Hello, I'm Rosella Stephen at The Hindu, and welcome to our moderated conversation on real estate. Today, our dialogue is on ORR, or Outer Ring Road, and a little bit about Outer Ring Road, which is emerging as Chennai's growth spine. It is the city's attempt to turn outward growth from ad hoc sprawl into a planned multimodal expansion. The nodes in this 62-kilometer orbital corridor are Minjur, Red Hills, Vandalur, and Punamalai. Each is intended as a hub, a nodal hub, dealing with logistics or residential or industrial needs. It connects multiple national highways and arterial roads. But today, at this table, we have with us Sanjay Chugh. We know him better as Sanjay Chugh at Anarok, but he did say, please highlight City Head and Director Values Over Value, which is part of Anarok Property Consultants. Vidya Mohan Kumar, architect and urban designer. She's going to be our conscience today as we talk buildings and acquisition. Karthik, no stranger to The Hindu, but with Super Chennai, buzzy outfit that helps with branding of Chennai and what Chennai has in store. And of course, Mr. Agarwal, from Casagrand. And he's the person who is making this possible. So today, with Gautam, with Karthik, with Vidya and with Sanjay, let's talk about what the potential is for ORR, where we're going wrong, because as Vidya told me a little earlier today, this is a second chance. What went wrong with OMR can be righted now with ORR. So what is it that we should look at first, Sanjay?
Thanks, Roselle. Very, very valid question. We learn from our mistakes. Yes, we have made mistakes in the earlier corridors, but I think great opportunity to correct all of it. I think the biggest thing that we need to really create is infrastructure, apart from the physical, which is we have a great road, a 62-kilometer road, but beyond the road, if a family is going to stay there or work there, you also need social infra. You also need the basic fundamentals. Like for example, you do need pipe water, you need drainage connections, you need uninterrupted power supply. So what is it that can make people, apart from the cost of real estate, which is obviously lower, because real estate costs, land is lower, but then you really need to sort of attract people to move into a new corridor. And that can happen when there is an ecosystem built around, a dwelling unit or create enough office structure. So if you look at any growth, it happens from creating jobs, housing, retail, social infra. That's how it follows. So without jobs, there's no housing. Without housing, there's no retail. So I guess if this ecosystem is very systematically developed, of course, it's going to be a partnership with the developer community and of course the government. And I'm sure if this is taken care of, it can become an excellent corridor to live, because I personally traveled on that corridor. I love to drive on that road. Less traffic, good speed. It's beautiful to drive on that, and you reach very quickly from where you are to where you want to be. So if I had to commute in the city, 5 kilometers may take me 30 minutes, but there I could do, say, 15 to 20 kilometers at the same time.
Yes.
So that's
Well
the biggest
said.
advantage.
Yeah, and at this table, we also have Karthik and Vidya, who are much more acquainted with ORR because Karthik is 100 meters away. Vidya, of course, is a little further, but yes, but very. And Vidya, you did mention to me that back in 2012, was it? This ORR was on your mind much more than it is for us.
That's right. I think we need to acknowledge that ORR is already growing at this point, right? From my first encounter with ORR in 2012, the context of it was BRT feasibility. We were looking at feasibility for various networks for BRT in the city. And at that point, I was associated with an organization named ITDP, and we had submitted a feasibility report to the Transport Department at that point. And the ORR was one of the sort of low-hanging fruits. You know, it could very easily have absorbed a mass transit network in that sense. But as I was saying, I think ORR is already growing. The question now is to ask, how will it grow, right? And I want to, you called me the conscience, so I, I do want to emphasize that we need a balance between what is the optimism as well as the realism here, right? We need to avoid both hype as well as cynicism with it, right? We, of course, are coming, fast on the heels of the OMR, right? And it's an economic success, no doubt. That much we have to give it to OMR. But it's, from an urbanistic perspective, it has a lot of shortcomings. 20 years on, we're still waiting for water supply and sewerage connections to arrive. Mass transit integration has not happened in 20 years' time. The entire corridor has gone way past its, time in terms of it being deemed a car-dependent neighborhood, right? And, trying to reverse those patterns is going to be quite an effort despite the metro coming in and so on. But I think, the cautionary parallel that OMR is, it also gives us, an opportunity to rethink ORR in a different way. And the other advantage that ORR has is that it's a greenfield development, unlike OMR, which was brownfield. And the greenfield development offers so much, to be embedded in it, which is in terms of mass transit integration, in terms of utilities, infrastructure planning, as well as mixed-use planning, where, it's not just sort of a mono-use corridor, which is either just full of housing or whatever, but it is more holistic and therefore presents itself as a sort of polycentric model of development, which has a good mix of everything, and when I say everything, I'm referring to the livability aspect, the quality of life aspect, and for which we need not just the utilities and the mobility integration, but also the uses, which is, recreation, workplaces, housing, affordable housing, your healthcare, schools, leisure and public space is often overlooked when we think of development corridors, and Chennai has had a history of developing in a corridor model, for decades now, and this is the next corridor that's being developed. But can we revisit this corridor? Can we learn from our mistakes? Can we do this better? Can we shape this in a little, in a different manner? Is, I think, a great opportunity that is lying in front of us, and up to us whether we want to seize it or not.
No, well said. And when you mentioned work, there's a work-life balance that we're all looking at these days, and why it's so important that these suburbs must have leisure or must have third spaces.
Yeah.
So people living in these places do not, have to travel all the way to Chennai, to the city.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chennai as such, I think the, on a comparative basis has a paucity of third spaces, and I think it's worth it to, revisit the idea of what it is, the only free public space is the beach, and, even our parks, as many parks as we do have, they do shut at a particular time and they do open at a particular time. So the restricted access doesn't make it, as easily accessible to everyone. I think, the integration of such public spaces and amenities, walkable neighborhoods, all of these are very critical and they are always overlooked. And the problem with overlooking is that when you try to retrofit it, it is next to impossible, and I see this in my line of work every day, like it takes like 5 years to convince and get a footpath built. We've been working with Greater Chennai Corporation for quite some time, a little over a decade, retrofitting streets, streetscape redevelopment projects, where we're, the metric that we're working for is walkability, improving walkability, putting in pedestrian infrastructure. It's just, it's politically difficult, it's financially expensive, and it's very spatially constrained if you haven't thought about it right at the outset, And then, the number of, stakeholder consultations, I need to put forth an economic case for building a footpath. For me, that's just stupid, it's like it's supposed to be a default, but here I am asked for to build an economic case for why we need to put in walking infrastructure. It's basic dignity, livability is about having the basic dignity, in your neighborhood. And one of the important aspects is active mobility, walking infrastructure, and public spaces. And I think the real estate development tends to overlook it because, there's a sort of a short-term absorption that is, a primary focus, and, the sort of long-term delivery doesn't, feature in the equation in that sense.
Okay, so sorry, Karthik, going to switch over quickly to Gautam because he should answer this about how real estate developers, have a say in shaping Chennai. I know that Casagrand has just launched that candy-themed inflatable park,
Yes.
which I think is one of many things that
Yes,
you're
yes.
introducing. Could you now answer us all and tell us what plans are in play for the ecosystem at ORR?
See, I think ORR as an urban ecosystem will definitely take a better shape in the coming time. And we have been evaluating how the city has been living and how the people have been, sourcing the housing need. So predominantly it has been based on the location. Like I am staying in Ananagar, I need in and around Ananagar because my kid's school is there and I work here. And so, we have been thinking, is there any location which can make people live location agnostic? So is there anything which can provide a better lifestyle? And when people choose within the locations what is available to them, there are 2-3 scenarios what they always fall into. One is the prices are crazy expensive. Second is the quality of life and open spaces are hardly there. As mentioned by Vidya, there are no public spaces, there are no parks which are available for kids and elders to go and spend time there. So the infrastructure around is very compromised, I feel. So, is there anything which we can give, to the people of the city where they can have a better life? For this, definitely, a company like us needs a large tract of lands. So, to create those kind of infrastructure and to those kind of recreational amenities and recreational parks and things like that. And as we know, there are no such large tracts available in the city wherever people are looking. So ORR fits in all the problems which a home buyer has today. This is the only location in Chennai we have identified, and we have found out that from the south to the north, like from Ananagar till the Adyar and the Sholing Nallurs and T Nagars, you can reach within the travel time of 30 to 45 minutes, which is great, which is absolutely great. And the quality of life which can be offered here with the large tract of land which are available can be far, far superior. Just imagine the kids will have enough and more, the parks to play, and, the kind of amenities which a company like us can provide or any real estate organization can provide will be far superior than what they can do within the city. And last but not the least, the capital appreciation which somebody can expect on OMR will be far, far higher than any other part of the city. So, we believe that ORR is the next way for housing, and there have been enough and more cases in the country and across the world that infrastructure development and the outer ring roads and the ring roads have, fueled the growth of the city. Hyderabad is a very classic example. Hyderabad has been successfully able to, move the city outwards. I think that's the only city which has been able to do it so phenomenally well. Today, the Hyderabad feels so nice, and I think this is the best city in India. If you compare to, and it looks so global because the travel and the infrastructure is so nice. So I'm sure ORR will do the same magic to Chennai, and it will become the next wave for the new development there. So, that's my
What has been the response to the theme park?
The theme park has been going good. We are sold out every day. So there's a capacity of 4,000 tickets per day. So during the weekends we are sold out, and it's getting a very good response.
And when you talk about development, we talk about, is it going to be the typical gated community, or are you looking at different models when it comes to these nodes?
See, what we have, I mean, when we are taking people out of their conventional locations, we have to give something different. And since these locations at the moment, lack other infrastructure like schools and things, so we are coming with school. We are coming with first of a kind sports club, which is, 2.5 lakh square feet sports club, which is, it has some 40 sporting facilities of international standards. So, I mean, we have engaged international architects to design this. And so it's not a regular gated housing which is available anywhere in the city. It is something different so that, people have ease of education there. People have ease of, they can have a better life every day. So as I said, the lifestyle of people within the city has come down drastically, and there is no space to enjoy and relax yourself. So our idea is basically to create those spaces, and that's why we are doing these things very differently.
Okay, which then takes us to Karthik. And Karthik, you were talking
Sorry,
about... Yeah.
Can I just chime in with one? Just out of curiosity, are you seeing an evolution in the type of buyer? Like, what are they asking for? Like,
see, today buyers are asking a better living space.
as in, is the gated community still something that's desirable?
In demand, is that something that's
yes,
what we were
gated
asking?
community is definitely in demand. People want to stay in gated community for various benefit what it provides, starting from security to, first is security basically, and you can really big amenities and big open spaces can be provided by gated community. Otherwise, it's very easy to mince lands into smaller parcels and build homes, what the city has always done. So that's the reason why there are lack of open spaces in our city, because, during the yesteryears, we all loved owning our plots and building our homes, which left no open spaces in the city. So definitely people love gated communities, starting from security to the lifestyle what they get there.
But this takes us to people outside the gated communities. I think that's what Vidya is also getting at. And Karthik, this is where you step in, because you did mention to me why it's important to have deemed universities, why it's important to have a service industry, because they create an ecosystem. And that ecosystem is not just for people who are also in gated communities, but also, who can check out a neighborhood pub or a park or a store or an ice cream store, as you mentioned. So, yes.
See, I think somewhere down the line, ORR is sequentially so right. See, for example, we are talking about OMR as a parallel, right? The sequence was different, and that's the reason we faced a lot of challenges. Because generally, if you see, opportunities follow connectivity, and then consumers follow opportunities, and brands follow consumers. Yeah. And that's a sequence usually. When the sequence is right, I think the growth will be organic, and the growth will be meaningful as well. So that's exactly what ORR offers, because predominantly in Chennai, I think educational institutions have always grown in the suburbs. There's someone who has lived in Mandalore for life, born and brought up. I think I have a very personal trivia with ORR that got me into the discussion, because ORR opened the year I got married. And I am from Mandalore, and ORR was opened till Nemilacheri, and my wife was from Avadi. So if at all for ORR, I would not have gone to my wife's home multiple times. So thanks to ORR, probably
I'm sure they're listening
saved my
in
life in a lot of ways. The road is beautiful. I'll tell you, you feel peace when you drive on that road. Absolute peace. Amazing road for ecotourism. There are multiple places where you can just stop, have a great view, and then just go on. It's such a beautiful road from that standpoint. And as I was telling you, even there are a lot of examples in the suburbs, especially outside Chennai, as we speak about decongesting the city and start, redistributing resources outside the city. I think, earlier, when I were a kid, anything and everything, we used to come to T Nagar. Okay? And if for little smaller requirements, we used to at least come to Tambaram. Today, just take right and go to Urapakam, Guduvancheri. You just park your vehicle in a place. Every 10 minutes, you have a brand. And why did that happen? Because Shriram City happened, because SRM University happened, because your Zoho happened, Mahindra World City happened. So opportunities came, consumers came. I know a lot of friends, when Zoho was in Saligramam, moved bought houses in Gudwandiri and settled there. And they're doing really well. They are excited about the life they are living, because the moment someone experiences a life in that part of the city, for them they'll feel it's heaven. Not a single drop of water when it rains. It's managed. I think it's naturally managed that well. And if you don't disturb that ecosystem and build it, I think that's exactly the way it is. In fact, in Feb, when we did our Super Chennai conclave, I think one of the very interesting points that came through people, we were actually suggesting a 30-minute cluster. 30-minute cluster is basically, people should have this travel time of 30 minutes to reach to work or reach to education, healthcare, and come back home. And ORR is right there. I think everything is in place, and it's about how meaningfully we build that corridor. I think that's exactly where the success of that project is going to come up. Imagine a corridor which is ripe for development. Metro is already there. Suburban connects in 3 places there. Pattabhiram, there is a connection. Vandalur, there is a connection. Meenjur, there is a connection. Pundamalli, there is a metro. And if the Coimbatore Avadi happens, another metro connectivity connects to ORR. So it's so ripe, and it opens up opportunities for everything. Which are already there. It's how we do that. We keep talking about last mile connectivity, right? If those things happen, I think it's going to be, I would say, one of the best roads that we have. And in fact, it's very interesting that ORR in different parts have different characters.
That's true.
Even I still remember reading an article in the Hindu, if I'm not wrong, a couple of years back, which spoke about how CMD wants to develop Vandalur into a cosmopolitan, residential hub, and bit into industry for in and around Pundamalli. Red Hills was more about green cover.
Correct.
And Meenjur was about transit, mass transit, port, all that connectivity. So it has got the right, because it's a 62-kilometer stretch, exactly. Right? Unlike the older bypass, I'm sure there's a lot of learnings that were picked up from the old bypass construction. Even the way ORR is lit is amazing, right from day one. Right now we are paying toll, which is a little sad, but otherwise we used to travel in ORR without toll forever, for a longer period of time. But yeah, it's a beautiful place. I think the way we see things happen, it's already there. I think what we are going to add is a layer on top of it. And how are we going to add it? And as he was rightly pointing out, the expectation of people, given the connectivity is already there, is going to be livability. And imagine, we all know people, the water in OMR will not be used for construction as well, if I'm not wrong, right? And you have potable water right there. I have water at 20 feet, and people have potable water there. So if there is development which doesn't disturb this ecosystem, you will not believe, people like us are not bothered if there are no roads at, next to home. But we are bothered if there is a garbage dump next to the lake. Because the biggest plus for us is potable water, and which is available across the year, irrespective of summer.
But you say potable water is not a problem. However, as the numbers go up, will that be a problem? Sanjay, this is where you step in, because you've studied this.
See, as any corridor for that matter gets more densely populated, if you do not have a pipe supply, like I said in the beginning, you are going to get into the groundwater, right? So and I'm sure OMR has got a long way to go, because it's a huge corridor.
That's right.
It'll take at least maybe another 30, 40, 50 years for it to become a water shortage area. There's enough and more. And like you said, the water is very portable. It's available. It's not dense. The good thing about this corridor is you have development, but it's not like everything is in one location, or there is, 5,000 homes in one area, which obviously will drain out the natural resources. So if it's spread well, and I see a lot of development that's happening are also plotted. When you do a plotted development, your dwelling units go down. Gautam, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
So if you go vertical, you're adding more and more density. But when you're going in plotted, so you have lesser density, maybe one plot, one home. So you're still keeping the ecosystem, you're still saving it. You're not really going into it. The moment you populate it very much, and then you have a problem. So I don't see water being an issue as of now in that corridor, because the quality of water is good. See, it's not an area which was infected by industries earlier. So there is a lot of nice green cover. Like Karthik said, it's beautiful. The views that you get, at every different. You see a water body, you see greenery. So there is, it's more or less, yeah, exactly virgin, very beautiful. So if the industries were there, and then you convert it,
Yeah.
which happened in OMR. A lot of OMR had industries.
Correct.
So that got converted. It takes, even for the ground, to replenish the water, which is already getting polluted earlier, it takes time. Look at Ambattur. A lot of areas have got industries. Fortunately, this corridor doesn't have industries. There could be some warehousing, but it's not really polluting industries or anything. So that, I think, is a very big advantage from the water that you asked me about.
Yeah. But what are the checkpoints that we should keep in mind? Now, I'm sure there are pain points. There are instances of flooding, for instance, and that's where I want to come in. When buyers come to you today, does something like flooding matter a lot to them, or have they given up and they said, okay, fine, that's one of the issues, life goes on, let's look at something that's affordable. So what do they come to with you?
What I feel is, being an Indians, any setback you throw at us, we are very fast to come out of it. So, however, buyers of Chennai are very, very conscious about where they are buying and what the flood level was. And we have seen various questions by the buyers, like what was the flood in 2015. Their buying decision definitely is influenced by whether it's a flooded area or will it flood-prone area or not. So we take extreme conscious we are very cautious in terms of what are the levels of our societies we develop. So we take all the 2015, which is the highest recorded flood across the city, and we make sure that we are above that. So to answer you, yes, home buyers definitely worry about the flood and the flood levels.
But it's something that they can, you can help them navigate, is what you're
Yes,
saying.
we help them navigate. We make sure that they don't have the inconvenience of flooding within the community. We also are appealing to the government bodies to provide the necessary infrastructure to drain out the water. Being a developer, we can take care of a community what we are developing. But we strongly appeal to the government also to make sure the necessary infrastructure is there. To drain out the water on the streets and on the roads.
Thank you. Sanjay, if I were to ask you how one could reframe ORR as an opportunity, what are the main points that builders should look at, planners should look at?
So, you are an urban planner, we have
She's
a developer here.
going to catch you here, that's why, so yes.
So, the quality of life, what are you really giving a home buyer? So, today, if I'm in the city and I'm buying a home, I'm just buying a home, right? It's my four walls. I go down, there's no adequate parking. And like you mentioned, in some areas where there is excess of retail happening, look at Ananagar. Ananagar has got a lot of retail. If I have a car to park, I don't have space. My building may not have enough space. I can't park it on the road. So the real quality, the views, if I look out of the window, I'm seeing another building. There is traffic, there is pollution, so there are a lot of things that we are paying without realizing we're actually paying for it to live in the city. So as a developer and whatever he can provide, obviously is a better quality living. And that's what Gautam said. The idea is to, first of all, the home buyer is very aware nowadays. And it's a slow moving, it's not something that can happen overnight. People have to actually live. Maybe their friend, their family has to move, experience what they're going through, experience the difference. So until you see a difference, you're not going to do it. So even this corridor will take time because people have to actually experience when Karthik, who stays in Mandalore, has experience and doesn't want to leave that place. So his friends and his other family members also have to experience something similar. So one is creating what is within the community. But you have to upgrade the lifestyle, the way they live, the way they think. A family should have enough space to move around. There has to be enough privacy. There has to be enough, parking and everything. So as a community that you create that and you're promising a better lifestyle. So what are you compromising? Maybe your travel time, a little more travel time, distance, may not be very close to the airport or whatever. But then in exchange, you're getting much more. And yeah, you're talking about the second airport. We don't know when it's going to come. We're talking about it.
Say so.
We continue talking
Get in
about
there
it.
and say it.
we continue talking about it from over 2 decades. And I really don't know it's going to come up. That's a very sad point. And, breaking off from ORR, because the moment you land into Chennai, the first thing, I think we've discussed this many times,
We've all discussed this.
From the outsider perspective, we are used to it. But somebody coming from outside, the first shock is, why? There has to be a better one. There has to be, I don't want to travel.
What should there be?
There has to be a much, so today, if you are flying international, you don't have wide body aircrafts coming here. I know many friends who actually go to a different city and then take a wide body aircraft because it's an 8 to 10 hour flight. So they want, so that's shortage. The space obviously is constrained. Parking is a big issue. So you have senior citizens who carry the bag, come there and take a cab, you have to go into that aero hub. So there are those challenges, right? One of them also being language many times. They don't know the language. So when people come from outside, the first shock is the airport. So
that's true.
Obviously it has to.
Yes.
So while ORR may be a great thing, but we also have to keep in mind that there are lots of things that when people come, they discover, and sometimes becomes a negative for us.
And also when you have
that,
newer people coming into, as a service industry we were talking about, it is getting more and more difficult to get the creative industry or, people under 40 to come into Chennai and make Chennai their home. Which we discussed that earlier today, but after they finish their internship or after they finish, that probation period, they want to get back to another metro. Yeah. So this is where ORR can play a role, I suppose, when you create this beautiful ecosystem where people are happy to be there. Can you tell me a little more about what else can help create that ecosystem?
The minus 40 generation looks at a work-life balance. Probably us, we are plus 40, we look at, okay, work, home, but they need leisure, they need better quality, they need to socialize, they need the cafes, they need the pubs, they need a lot more freedom. Now, if you close a flyover at 10:30, which you have made with so much of money, it doesn't serve the purpose, no?
This is clearly his pain point.
Why do you close the flyover at 10:30 when there are enough people? And I don't understand the logic. The world over there are enough flyovers. They may be having the similar challenge, maybe people are speeding or whatever. There may be some checks and balances, but you don't shut a infrastructure because some people may speed. So everybody is, facing inconvenience. So I think the new generation, which is now getting into the Gen Z and all, they expect a lot more. They expect qualitative spaces. Like he said about Hyderabad, if you go to Hyderabad, you just look at the vibe. I think the vibe is what they need, and great opportunity if this corridor can really create something different. Like if you go to a Gurgaon, it's very different than Delhi. Right? Delhi is still a city, the old city, but when you go to Gurgaon, you feel it. Or if you go to Bangalore, North Bangalore or Whitefield. So there's a very different vibe. So I think the opportunity exists. If we really create something, maybe then the Gen Z will start looking at that and evaluating those options.
True, you have something to say.
In fact, when he spoke about the opportunity, so what this corridor gives is, you can actually create denser opportunities in a place and make it a hub, but people can still reach there in 20 minutes without any hassle, So as this corridor develops, I think it offers those flexibility for infrastructure planners to kind of give that, It's so, I'd say, as he said, it's so virgin right now. And it gives you that great opportunity. For example, say, Ambattur Industrial Estate, I think it's the second in Tamil Nadu, I guess, built in 1964. Today it's built into a nice IT hub. It coexists there. Today, even in ORR today, there is an industrial estate in Tirumudivagam. So there are spaces where, it's just off ORR, okay? There are spaces where you can build those service sector jobs. While we want to become a startup hub, we want to become an innovation hub, we want to become an AI capital today. If policymakers start looking at these stretches as places where we can create those large infrastructures, large hubs, I think that's exactly where opportunities are created. So connectivity, opportunity, consumers will follow. And brands will follow. So when I would say consumers of a certain strata follows, obviously brands will follow. And in this case, it need not be even distributed because the travel time is so less. You can just catch where you want to go, and people love to drive in this road also. I don't know how long it will it will last. I mean,
Yes.
given the kind of development that will happen. I mean, but I think this road that way gives you enough and more opportunity to build things with a lot more balance. It's also because of the availability of space. So that I think is a big plus as far as ORR is concerned.
But it's important again to get back the checks and balances because, as Vidya mentioned, it is something that you can set right from day one. What are those checks and balances? If you can just simplify it for everybody here.
So I think one of the key things that need to be done is the mobility integration, especially with mass transit. That, and I was earlier referring to walkability and encouraging active travel modes. So and we were just discussing this before we walked into this room that the Chennai suburban line is probably the only transport infrastructure in Chennai city where the transport preceded the development, and therefore everything along that corridor still works. You can reach MCC, you can reach, there's the sanatorium, there's, Tambaram, which has grown into a wonderful hub because it's, connected via mass transit. All of that, it's actually a living example of why the transit needs to precede the development. Here's an opportunity before the development really goes haywire is to put in the mass transit. Otherwise, it's going to be too late, And the second part is, of course, the utilities planning, which again, to avoid the mistakes that were overlooked in OMR. We need to look at proper peak capacity planning. We really need to anticipate what is the demand for a projected population. I would say, we were talking about a metric for success. I think, going back to the livability argument, the metric for success along ORR cannot be, the rising land prices over there. It has to be livability. It has to be what the corridor can offer to future generations, who wants to be here, going forward. And it could be youth retention, it could be youth migration coming in, and if this is where they want to be, then so be it. But I think much needs to be done on those two aspects predominantly. And when I say utilities, I'm referring to a wide spectrum. It's it of course covers water supply, wastewater management, solid waste management, stormwater management, restoration of any of the water bodies and water systems that may exist. All of this is part of the sort of release infrastructure planning. And I want to bring in the the aspect of climate resilience. We of course touched upon the flooding aspect and the fact that buyers are increasingly aware of this. The development on OMR cannot, afford to make those mistakes again. It has to be climate resilient. The blue-green infrastructure needs to be in place to address heat mitigation. We like to complain about how Chennai is very hotter, hottest, so some of those very stereotypical jokes about the city. But yes, it is true, and we are facing one of the hottest summers this year. And heat mitigation is something that's very, very overlooked, in either the existing development or in new development. I think it's very important to look at tree cover in its early stages, before it's, and then, 15, 20 years later, we're like, oh, there are no trees here. Yeah, because we didn't plant any 20 years ago, the sort of, again, the infrastructure for water security, where we're constantly creating water insecure developments. I think it's high time we start thinking about recycling, reusing water. This could include anything from rainwater harvesting to grey water treatment units, which sort of do large-scale recycling, and a lot of these aspects. Again, energy consumption patterns. Solar integration with developments. So much can be done. I really feel like this is a wonderful opportunity to show that Chennai can get planning right. And I really wish we could, go that direction.
But this is where I ask you, when it comes to you, you're talking about building responsibly or planting trees. What thought is going on at Casagrand with reference to this about building materials? Today we all complain about how every city looks the same. There is nothing that distinguishes one city from the other. Is this something that you all discuss? You as a team discuss when you're thinking of aesthetics and architecture?
Yeah, so we are taking this subject very seriously in our organization and moving to the materials which are safer to the earth. I mean, be it green materials to how do we make our buildings less less energy efficient. I mean, energy efficient. How do we make sure that the water consumption is lesser? And how do we make sure that green cover is maintained? So we have started an initiative. Just to give example here, we plant thick trees around and the around the all the boundary of our project, so that within 10-15 years they will really grow up to big trees, because generally we have basement, and wherever basement is there we are not able to do those thick plantations. But all the areas in our communities where basement is not there, we are taking conscious effort to create a green cover which our home buyers would enjoy after a few years when the tree grows. So all our designs are focused on how do we make a wind, how do we use a wind flow in Chennai, and how do we I mean make sure our homes are cooler and you need less of air conditioning. I mean, the kind of glasses we started using in our windows, make sure that the less of heat goes inside. So we are very responsive, being a responsive organization of the city, we are very conscious of what material we'll use and what we leave behind to this planet. So we are taking a lot of efforts to make sure that our communities are greener than what we used to do before, and because we think we have to be socially responsible to what we are doing to the planet and what we leave behind. So I mean,
you mentioned the trees. So are these indigenous trees, or what thought is?
They're mainly the trees of fruit-bearing trees. I mean, our effort is also to create an income stream for our residents after 10-15 years, when the really tree grows up, and they can start giving income to the association. At the same time, it also gives. I mean, we have all grown up near to mango trees, papaya trees, neem trees.
Is that more of what you'll be finding in your properties,
yes,
mango
yes,
and
yes.
neem?
A lot of fruit-bearing trees is what we are planning. This is similar to what we all have grown up in older times during our neighborhoods. I mean, we all had fruit trees, right? I mean, somehow with a lot of developments happening in the city, those trees vanished. So we want to bring them back in our communities and also, create an income stream for our residents.
Sounds good. Vidya, what do you have to say to this? At least we're going beyond the date palms, the palm trees, and
absolutely,
that kind of landscaping,
stunning,
that kind of landscaping.
landscape, which
Date
serves
palms
no
are very
purpose.
important.
Yeah.
It's not like date palm. I mean, wherever, there has to be balance between the aesthetics and the functionality. I mean, architects talk form over functionality and things like that. So date palm will be there where date palm is needed, but there will be a lot of trees where date palm is not needed.
Right. No, but I do very much appreciate the thinking behind, the tree plantation in the properties. Appreciate that. I think, if we step back, we're really discussing not just the growth, but the quality and the consequences of what we're doing, and I think especially since we're talking in a developer perspective, I'd like to bring in the idea of the triple bottom line, and I'm sure that's something that may be in discussions in boardrooms, that how can we balance the people, planet, profit equation? And a lot of times, I mean, the perception is that developers are only concerned about one of the P's, which P. So, and that's why I think it's appreciable that you are thinking about several other aspects. But I also believe that the developers, especially in a city like Chennai, where the planning is rather outpaced by the pace of the urbanization. There is a lot of agency that developers have, and in terms of what they can do and how they can shape the future of the city. And we know several neighborhoods that have largely been shaped and driven and delivered by private developers. So in that sense, I think from the ESG perspective is what I'm referring to here. Apart from the environment, where you also spoke about materials and designing consciously, and that it is embedded in the way the projects are conceived. Is the social equity a consideration at all? Because, I mean, you did mention that the gated community is still a viable and, much desired option for buyers, prospective buyers. But, that really sort of, breaks the equation with social equity. Are we Are we making it affordable? Are we creating it? Are we creating ecosystems where the workforce can participate? And workforce across income levels can participate, or are we just creating these sort of enclaves where everything is protected and there's like small havens are created without necessarily being integrated and not necessarily again participating with the rest of the city, right? So it's as if we are bypassing all public and creating private domains, and that is a cause for concern from various angles. One is the social equity to start with, and it will have its own repercussions with environmental as well as the economic viability of providing services across that corridor itself. So
Is that something that you're looking at with reference to? It's a
Yeah,
it's a
so-
valid question, really, about public spaces as well.
yeah.
So, I mean, over the years, social equity has, like, what has happened is where the work was there, people have built residences there. So, I mean, an organization like us, I mean, we want to build a good social equity at every part of development, what we do. And we are chasing the large tract of land to do that. Because if you have to really build, a community which has a very good social equity and, people really enjoy and thrive there, which can have a work, which can have a enjoyment, which can have a recreation, which can have a housing next to it. So I mean, we are consciously chasing a large parcels of land to build that kind of social equity which our city needs. I mean, I think the other cities in India have done much better than what our city has seen in Chennai. So we are consciously working towards it.
Perhaps the clubs and the health club, as you mentioned, will bring people who are outside the gated community in. Is that?
We are not finalized on that. I mean, we are doing a social club. I mean, it's a sports club.
Public spaces is what I think we're looking at.
Yes.
And the question is.
Yeah, I mean, we are developing a lot of public spaces, and I mean, this ORR also will open up opportunity to do more of the spaces for such spaces, because the other part of the city are totally occupied. I mean, it's either retail, full office, and there's no much space left to develop any of these spaces now. So I'm sure ORR will open up a lot of areas to develop more social equity there.
Sanjay, here's where you can step in, because you speak to several property real estate developers. Where do you think they play a role when it comes to social equity?
So I think the developers are listening to the home buyers. I've been in discussions where I've seen the kids making their mind. I was at a negotiation meeting the other day, and there was a child who said, "Dad, I've seen something on the internet about this project. It has a swimming pool, and I want to stay here." So the father relented because there was no choice. But even the kids today, I think the awareness level is very high. And as a developer, I think a lot of times you have to listen to what the home buyer wants. I mean, what is it that I can provide is this, but a home buyer may need so many more things. Like, for example, today, a pickleball court has become very common. Earlier it wasn't, right? It's a new sport. People are really caught on to it, so there are things like that. And like that, there are many things which I think the entire community of developers are started to listen to home buyers, asking them. And it is not only about the amenities, also about the kind of sizes. What is the kind of sizes they want to live in? Pre-COVID, the sizes were much smaller. Post-COVID, the sizes are larger because there is some space you need to keep for your work. Many started working from home. Yeah. Many kids were studying at home. And even now, many jobs still are not fully moved to the office. There's some time that people do work. So I think the entire layout and everything. So I think there's a lot of participation also from the home buyer, where the developer actually has to design spaces. Otherwise, the project may or may not be very successful if you don't design it the way the consumer or the home buyer wants it.
It's also about creating good neighborhoods, which is not just what's happening within that, that building or that project, but what's happening elsewhere.
Which is very true, because if there's a developer A creating something fantastic, I'm sure developer B, developer C, developer D also want to create something. So what happens, there is a mentality that says, okay, they have created something beautiful, let me add something more to it. So the quality of living and the quality
set the bar high, basically.
Exactly. So 10 years back, what we were seeing, the way homes were being designed and executed, today is very different. Like Gautam mentioned about even materials that are being used. It's very important because as a developer, I'm handing over and I'm going away. But sustenance of that is a long term. So what kind of windows, glasses? There's something called performance glass, which actually cuts the heat. So your load on air conditioning is lower. So I think it's a very conscious effort. It's no longer just what the developer wants to do, but secondly also what is it the customer wants, home buyers want, and how do I look at the long term, not just that short term one project, but I think creating that entire long term business.
And hopefully creating wildlife diversity, all of these things, which is, I don't see happening. on
Designing
Dwara.
with nature is
Something which is there. I think it's about nurturing, coexisting with them. I think which is pretty much possible given. I think even today developers give a lot of ear to people who come from that background as well on how to build this sustainably. I think sustainability has become the
You
word.
have sold that road, this whole ORR for us. Okay, we're all going to take out our cars and go driving along you and Sanjay together.
Please come home too.
Sanjay, one question for you. Is price appreciation here demand-led or infrastructure speculation-led?
I think over a period of time, it's going to be demand, simply because when you have more and more people moving into a particular location, prices are bound to go up. The land owners know there is a demand, so the land cost goes up. Construction cost is variable because that's an economic feature for everybody, but land is a primary driver. So if any quarter, look at OMR, the prices 20 years back, 10 years back, 5 years back, 2 years back, very different. So as demand increases in any corridor, the land prices start shooting up. So people who own land start valuing the land at a much higher price, and that's how the price actually starts escalating. However, I think this is a much longer road, a longer stretch. Right? The 62 kilometers along a stretch. So it's not like it's within a, say, 5 kilometer, 10 kilometers. So there is land available, and hopefully it shouldn't get outpriced itself. There should not be a medium term and outpricing. So I think land determines, and demand for that location determines how the price moves. So if there are more and more people moving in, they feel, yes, it's a better corridor to live in, the quality is better, prices go up. The land cost goes up.
I guess that's how it works, yes. So we treat ORR as a policy-led urban experiment. Everyone here agrees. And Karthik, since you're the brand chap, is there something, a tagline or something that comes to mind that you've been thinking of with reference to ORR and building a responsible spine to Chennai?
It's where opportunity meets livability. As simple as that. I think if the aspiration of a home buyer today is to stay a little off hassle, is to live a life which is sustainable, which is around nature. If I peep outside the window, I might see nature, wildlife, whichever way. I think it's a place to be. I think for me it's opportunity meets livability, good water, peaceful life. Just that you'll have to drive a little longer, but without traffic, it still works. That's how it is.
It's that romantic drive that we
only
used to
until
have before to the airport.
You don't have the congestion that comes in, and mass transit has to come in before
As
that.
you rightly said, I think we need to build it for peak capacity. So I think that's going to be the policy.
So build for peak capacity.
So I think if that is done proactively, I think development will be, sweeter.
Great. So build for peak capacity and let this be a great experiment for Greater Chennai. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you for being here, and my table of guests, thank you very much. I know. We had you were very pleasant. I think we didn't put you on the spot. Yes, please. Yeah.